So here's a distinction between what you just said, what we hold to, and what you just drew out of Westminster Confession 7.5 and 8.6, a distinction between that and what, say, our 1689 Federalist brothers believe. So they would agree with us that no one is saved apart from faith in Christ, the grace of Christ, and apart from, therefore, the covenant of grace. What they do differently is they say that the Mosaic covenant or the Old Covenant, or any of the covenants of promise in the Old Testament, that none of those are administrations of the covenant of grace. And so the covenant of grace is kind of offering because there's promises of it, and there are types that prefigure it, and those things will build them up by faith in the coming Christ. But none of those are tied to those specific Old Testament covenants. Whereas we say, no, those Old Testament covenants are administrations of the covenant of grace. They're temporary and they are imperfect, but nevertheless administrations of the covenant of grace. And so, the 1689 Second London Baptist Confession of Faith, they take 7.5 out, largely because it's talking about the covenant being differently administered in the time of the law or in the Mosaic covenant and in the time of the gospel, which are referring to the new covenant. And, but they do have 8.6. We both have 8.6, which is interesting to me. And I cannot wrap my head around it, and I can't figure it out. And I need help from the Federalist brothers. I've read many 1689 Federalists in many of their works, and I don't see anyone directly talking about 8.6 and what it means to them. I might read that because 8.6 is saying why we believe it is an administration. Yeah, exactly. The Old Testament's an administration of the covenant of grace.
I mean, 8 is talking about the mediation of Christ, but 7.5 and 8.6 could almost be just combined into one little unit. They happen. There's a reason they're in their separate places, but they're so similar that it is peculiar that you would retain one without the other. So go ahead and read it, please.
Yeah, to us, 7.5 and 8.6 are saying the same things. But let me read it. 8.6 says, although the work of redemption was not actually wrought by Christ till after his incarnation, yet the virtue, efficacy, and benefits thereof were communicated unto the elect in all ages, successively from the beginning of the world, in and by those promises, types, and sacrifices, wherein he, that is Christ, was revealed and signified to be the seed of the woman, which should bruise the serpent's head, and the lamb slain from the beginning of the world, being yesterday and today the same, and forever. Now, the interesting thing about 8.6 and why we both have that in our covenant, in our confessions, is that when looking at that word communicated, the virtue, efficacy, and benefits thereof were communicated unto the elect in and by those promises, types, and sacrifices. Those promises, types, and sacrifices, we understand, are aspects of the old covenant. And so it is then through that covenant that the virtue, efficacy, and benefits of Christ are communicated. And that word communicated is not like a conversation, a verbal conversation. That's not what...
No, they're means of grace. That's exactly what it means. They're means of grace.
Exactly. It means confer or communicated, like we often use in the doctrine of God, communicable and incommunicable attributes. We're talking about something that can be communicated or conferred, like a disease can be communicated to someone else or spread to someone else. We mean it in that sense, and that's the way the divines meant it. And I can't quite figure out the way the 1689 guys mean it. Because if they mean it the same way we do, then they would have to say that the old covenant then is an administration of grace. It's administering or conferring grace through that covenant. But I need help. So please write in and tell us what you mean by that in the Second London Baptist Confession.